Hello, welcome Simon's Trading Channel. It's Tuesday, second day of the week, and time for my daily Bitcoin price action analysis. Let's just jump straight into it. I better wish you all well, and I hope you've had a great day. Second day of the last week of May. I can't believe it's the last week of May. It also reminds me that this range has been going on since the last week of February. So that is the whole of March, the whole of April, and now pretty much the whole of May. So 3 months since Bitcoin achieved 57,000 and marched all the way up to 74. And 3 months since it has neither broken down in either direction. How many more months? I don't know. Maybe another 3? I don't know. Nobody does. But I tell you what I do know is that whenever Bitcoin, this is a daily chart, right? And there's the range. You can see the range. Whenever Bitcoin has spent some time going sideways in the range, the move that takes it out of the range is a fairly bullish one. So, for example, with this being the range high here, you can see it was a sequence of green days that took the price out of that range. This much shorter consolidation, impulsive move that took it out of the range, that never really had a range. This here, this was a very obvious range with a very obvious range high just there. And there was a bullish move that happened over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, so not even a week, and then it was out of the range and onwards and upwards. This one resolved to the downside over a period of literally 1 or 2 days. I think you see my point. And again with this wasn't so much a range, it was more of a sort of a falling channel, but your trend line that you would have had then there was broken by a impulsive move to the upside, and blah blah blah. You can go back as much as you want. So and that works same for the bear market too, by the way. It's very simple. Just have a look and just see how price reacts at different areas. You just see it basically does the same thing the whole time. And the things that's super consistent for Bitcoin are consolidation followed by move, consolidation followed by move. It's always a way. The consolidation is never exactly the same, or hardly ever exactly the same, probably never. Sometimes you get channels, sometimes you get literally sideways, channels, sideways. But it does that. That's its thing. It's consolidates and it moves. It consolidates and moves. Consolidates, moves. Consolidates. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, and this is a long period of consolidation, amongst the longest that Bitcoin has done so far in the bull run. The only one that sticks out, if you take it as the only one that sticks out as being longer, if you take it as one long consolidation, which I think is reasonable, is this one here. And that was a long one. It was longer than this. That was going on for half a year. A pretty much sideways price action. But what came afterwards? And I've said this a few times. So it was basically, this whole thing was Bitcoin bouncing up and down around 30,000, more or less. I know it wasn't exactly that, but more or less. And it stayed there for months on end. But look at the move that followed it. So I keep saying that the longer Bitcoin stays in this range, in any form of consolidation whatsoever, I think the bigger the move that then comes afterwards. And even though it's boring, and I mean this one's not been too boring because there's been significant moves to the upside and the downside, which have been imminently tradable if you've had your nose to the ground. It's obviously much more pleasing when price does this, all in one direction. But you can't do that all the time. It would just be crazy. So, yeah. All right. That's enough wittering. Have I managed to witter on for 5 minutes without really saying very much? Maybe I should be a politician. So, yeah, this is a daily chart. The trend's still to the upside. The MACD is still to the upside. It's also not really showing any divergence yet, which, you know, is significant. As is the weekly, still to the upside. And the 4 hour, indeed, still to the upside. The 4 hour is doing a great job going sideways. And you can clearly see now the 4 hour basically has its range low more or less at the midpoint of the overall range, but just a bit above it. So 66,000, and it has its range high pretty much at 71,000. You could argue it's a little bit lower than that now, but somewhere between 70.5 and 71,000, and it's ranging. I think the significant thing on the 4 hour here, which you can, I don't want to clutter up the chart really with too many lines, because too many lines just, the more you put on the chart, and I've directly experienced this myself, I've been down rabbit holes of indicators coming out of my ears, nostrils, mouth, and every other orifice. I won't go into the details of the rest of them. And you end up with a screen full of indicators and mess, and you can't even see the price action. So I do think it's useful to try and however you decide to look at your price action, whatever you decide to do to rationalize it in your own mind, because that's all I'm doing is rationalizing this price action in my own mind. Try and keep it simple, but of relevance to the very low time frames will be this little trend line that I'm about to draw on for you. So you can see here. So this low, and this low. So there are some higher lows within this overall move up. That's significant, because I think if on 4 hour or daily they started to do the opposite, and I kind of covered this in a previous video, but if you started to see this instead, so instead of this, which is what's currently on offer, if you started to see this, then, you know, it's a change in behavior from higher lows to lower lows. And lower lows tend to be in downtrend. So I think, you know, that the upside is still the most likely. But momentum's not strongly to the upside on the 4 hour. It's not massively strongly to the upside on the daily either, but it's maintaining to the upside. And Bitcoin is effectively camping out in the range that I just identified for you, which is between 66 and just call it 70,500. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I think, you know, that people start drawing triangles and saying this is a flag or whatever. But, you know, trend is your friend. And at the moment, the trend is still to the upside on the 4 hour daily and weekly. And it's kind of that on the low time frames, but I'm not going to go into them. So trend is your friend. And until it decides to do something else, then you should treat it as your friend. Do I want to say anything else about today's price action? No, I don't think so. So it is slightly hanging in the balance on the 4 hour. For me, it's still the midpoint. Well, it's 66,000 to begin with. 4 hours and daily closures back below there. So if I wake up tomorrow, because I'll be going to bed for it very shortly, and Bitcoin has closed the daily back below 66,000, I'll be getting rather more for the next move. I'll be swayed more towards the next move being back into the lower half of this range. I don't think I would be freaking out in any way, shape or form with regards to Bitcoin making larger retracements than it already has. I think it would just be range play. And when I say range play, I mean somewhere between 56 and 74, which is a pretty big range. All right, there we are. That's 10 minutes. Thank you for sharing your valuable time with me. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, please like and subscribe. And if you haven't, don't come back tomorrow because I'll be doing it for Wednesday. Take care, guys. See you tomorrow.